let me pass the roll sheet around. Hold on.
Finally.
Finally?
I got it. I got it. I got it. Oh, thank God.
Twins.
Turn off your other phone, your other one.
She's twins.
Yeah. Turn off your twin.
There, can everybody see that link I just put out?
Yes.
All right, so if you guys can log on there, put your name down for something in the future, that'd be awesome. And let's see, what else did I want to mention? Our YouTube channel. Hey, how many subscribers do we have out there? Do you guys know that we have our famous YouTube channel, the Expressions Unlimited YouTube channel?
We also embedded in our website.
Is it embedded?
Yeah, so it's in our Carlsbad Toastmaster website. It's embedded, but it's private right now. But if our YouTube is public, then we should make it public. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a public YouTube.
It is a public YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, so I embedded in our website, so it would also be in our website, our Expressions Unlimited website, which is carlsbadtoastmasters.org. It's also there, but one time when we were talking back and forth by email, I think it was only between, maybe it was Deanna and Devin and me, to make it non-public. But if the YouTube is public, then our website should be public.
Yeah, if you go
Does it make sense?
Yeah, if you go to the, let's see. Stop sharing that. Let me try to go to a different screen. If you go to, sorry guys.
Should be in your.
Oh, there it is. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see my?
Me.
Yeah.
And my
Okay,
face.
so
So Deanna, that's the YouTube channel.
yeah, so if you go to YouTube and you type in Expressions Unlimited, you can see all the previous
Okay.
meetings. And this is a great way for you to review yourself if you've done a speech lately and you want to see how did you come across and where you'd like to improve. So it's a good way to use it as a self-improvement. Don't criticize yourself, whatever you want to do. We can be our worst critics, but use it as a platform where you can improve on. Okay, did I send the wrong link?
At first.
Yeah, it says installation.
Try it again.
Installation.
Installation, just the wrong tab.
Let me try it again. Okay, how's that? All right. So,
Yeah.
hi,
that looks
Corey.
good.
All right, and just real quick housekeeping. Are we all okay with videotaping ourselves today and putting it on YouTube? Everybody can raise your hand and say, okay. Anybody say no? All right, okay. With that, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over to our Toastmaster today, and that would be Pat. Let's all welcome Pat.
Thank you, Deanna. The theme for today's meeting is taking inventory. Whether it's your health or your business, I came up with the theme when I was doing research for my next speech, which is on presenting a proposal. A proposal is a way of showing a client a way that their business or their health can be more healthy, more productive. So a proposal doesn't have to be just about your professional life. It can be about your personal life. with all this downtime from the pandemic, I know that I have cleaned out my garage, I cleaned out some of my office, and cleaned out my refrigerator. Just like when you're taking inventory, cleaning out your refrigerator, you throw out all the expired food, you can also take inventory of some of your habits, your ideas, and throw out some of the bad ones. I learned that to make a good proposal, you have to describe the problem, describe the solution, and then make a plan of action. It helps if your plan of action is very specific and very detailed. For instance, you can make a plan of action by saying, I'm going to lose weight next month or this month. But if you make a plan such as, I'm going to plan out my meals for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to buy all the ingredients, I'm going to cut out the unhealthy foods like ice cream or chips, soda, your plan has a better chance of being successful because it's not as abstract. So I encourage you to take inventory, whether it's in your health or your business. And with that, I will introduce, the word of the day. The theme is taking inventory, and the word of the day is eloquence. I can give a definition. I didn't bring that definition up.
Can you spell that?
Eloquence is ELOQUENCE.
So I have the definition of eloquence. It's a noun, and it's fluent or persuasive speaking or writing. That's the word of the day.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so we will now move on to our speech, or should I introduce with the roles? We have all the roles taken. Our first speaker is Charles. I'm sorry I didn't get the title of your speech, Charles, or the objective. And if you could just tell me how many minutes it was it's expected to be.
It's 5 to 7 minutes, and the title is Back to School. I sent it to my evaluator. So.
I can read his if you want me to. I guess he sent it to me only. I thought he sent it to you.
Yeah. If you would want to read that, please, Lucille.
Okay, so thank you. So Charles' speech for today is from the Innovative Planning Path, Evaluation and Feedback. The purpose is to present a speech on any topic, receive feedback, and apply the feedback to the second speech. The title of his speech is Back to School, 5 to 7 minutes. Exactly 20 years after earning his undergraduate degree, Charles sought his master's degree in business administration at the California State University, San Marcos. He has done this while working full-time and being a father to 2 children. In this speech, he will talk about some lessons learned in the classroom. And for the second speech, which he will do later, he will describe what he learned about himself as he nears graduation. Help me welcome Charles.
Thank you, Lucille. For the first level of the innovation planning path, I wanted to share with the club my experience about going back to school. As the project requires 2 different speeches, I'll be describing everything I did in the classroom for the first one, and then the second one, I'll be taking in your feedback to help make my second speech stronger, which will be more about what I've learned personally. Please, the more feedback I get, the better the second speech will be. The story begins in 2014, and my company lost a major contract, and there were substantial layoffs. About 50% of the company had been laid off, and I knew I had to make myself stronger in order to not be vulnerable to such a horrible outcome. In 2018, I decided I was going to do it. And after a lot of hard conversations with my wife about what I would not be able to do while I was in school and how much effort she would have to give to make sure that we were going to get through this, we decided that I could go back to school. Now I'm almost done. School started in summer of 2019. I have one more semester left. And as I'm approaching graduation, I wanted to share with everyone some of the things that I learned in the classroom, because it has truly been a revolutionary experience for me. It has allowed me to take inventory of myself and my capabilities. I'm going to go over 3 different topics because they seem to really overlap each other within the program. The first one was statistics. Statistics has been, and mathematical and quantitative analysis has never been my strength. What we did in statistics was we found the numerical relationships between issues and then found out what's the standard deviation. I never thought that regression analysis, basically taking lots of numbers together in different categories and then finding that relationship would be so insightful. There's a statistic called R squared, and R squared, what it does is it shows you how close a relationship an idea has or 2 different concepts have to each other, and if they actually, or multiple, it could be one or multiple issues, so you can see how close of a relationship they have to an outcome. The second part is the standard deviation. Now, the standard deviation, you think of the bell curve, and when things are on the outside, you look at how far away an idea can be from the mean, the center. And being able to understand that was critical because it's really easy for me to kind of get into the margins and not quite see the big picture. And being able to take statistics, I was able to, one, understand what is the relationship from an idea, from one idea to multiple ideas. And then the other one was how far off the mark can I be? And I can be pretty far off the mark. The second class was, not surprisingly, accounting. Accounting is hands down, where's the money? The accounting courses, they had 2 parts. The first one was financial accounting. The second part was managerial accounting. One of the things that I've really come to treasure with these courses is enhancing my financial literacy. While I understood money before, I think I really understand money now. And from the financial side, I was able to learn a lot of lagging indicators, as they say, when companies are actually like posting their numbers to Wall Street and their balance sheets, income statements, and their cash flow statements. I never knew that so much information was available and for me to actually make decisions. The way companies run, people can do the same things internally to make sure that they're actually understanding their best decisions with money, which, as the other side of the accounting side, managerial accounting. For managerial accounting, I learned how I and businesses can make rational decisions about planning, about how they can make their best decisions. And I really enjoyed being able to actually get down to look at the fixed costs and variable costs in my life and in other businesses and on the projects I'm actually working on to be able to find out how I can really make things add up. The last class and the last subject that I'll be touching on is leadership. The course that I just finished was on leadership and ethics. And leadership, for a lot of my life, I saw it as innate traits, and who you are as a person really determines what you can be and what kind of leader you can be. However, through learning this, I've learned that leaders are made, they're not born. One of the leadership philosophies I really enjoyed is by Bill George, and it talks about authentic leadership. In that, it talked about the importance of being self-aware, being able to guide your behavior through self-discipline, being able to objectively evaluate situations, and then lastly, being real with the relationships around you. And that's not always the easiest thing to do. For me, going back to school is a really hard decision, and it was probably one of the best decisions that I ever made. And I'm almost done, and it's been harder than I could have ever imagined, but it has really rewarded me. I've grown more, and I've found out, especially with COVID, that I'm more resilient than I ever thought I could be. So if you know someone who is thinking, if you yourself are thinking about going back to school, or you know someone who is thinking about going back to school, encourage them, because it's something that can really help them grow personally, professionally. Because for me, I know that going back to school is something that has paid more dividends than I ever would have expected. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. We will now take 1 minute for our evaluations. About 30 seconds. Okay, wrapping up, about 10 seconds. All right. Okay. We'll now introduce our general evaluator. Oh, do we get a timer's report? Was it within time?
Yes,
Devin?
yes, he qualified at 7:21.
Okay, thank you. And we'll now introduce our general evaluator, Stacy. Oh, wait.
It's not me.
Me. It's me.
I'm
All right.
sorry.
That's okay. As a general evaluator, I would like to introduce Lucille, who did a great job of introducing our speaker. And Lucille, if you can give us an evaluation of Charles' speech, that'd be fantastic.
Thank you, Deanna. Charles, I love the title, first of all, Back to School. I can very much relate going to school with graduate's degree and working full-time at the same time. So I can relate to that. You excelled at clarity. You're very clear. You stated the purpose, and you also told us the topic that you wanted to do. So you're very good at that. You're very good in organizing your speech, so it flowed really well from topic to topic, and you wrap it up with a call to action. So I really like that part of you doing that. So your presentation style is very clear, and your presentation style is also very good when it comes to vocal variety and using your hands gesture. Now, I know that this is different when you are in person, so the eye contact might need a little bit of help. We need to kind of do it in a different way because we are in Zoom. But overall, excellent job in your presentation. You have some little hesitation, but I think with the topic that you're giving us, which are oftentimes a little hard to do, you did a very good job. What I like you to work on is just, again, your eye contact with the audience, especially with Zoom. And also you might want to work on, if you know that your Wi-Fi might not be so good, if there is a way to connect it, wired it, because we get a little bit of a lag, so that kind of break the flow, but that's just on the side. Overall, excellent job. I challenge you to bring that minor just for the presentation when it comes to Zoom. That's all. But I know that when you do it in person, it would be flawless. Great job.
All right. Thank you, Lucille. Oh, thanks, Deanna. Thanks. And thanks for introducing it. I apologize for not having that information ahead of time. All right. I guess we don't need to vote on the best speaker or evaluator. I will now turn it over to our leader for the table topic session, Mr. Paul. Everyone, welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Pat. This is fun. It's 12:23, and I think we'll probably be able to get everybody in, most likely because we had one speaker. So a great opportunity for everybody to at least have a chance to speak today. The word of the day is eloquence. As I said earlier, it's a noun. Fluent or persuasive speaking or writing. And today's table topics are really around speech preparation. Some of us are very seasoned. We've spoken a lot. Some of us have not spoken a lot. But I thought it'd be interesting to hear from our seasoned speakers, as well as maybe our not so seasoned speakers, how they go about preparing for a speech. So the questions today are all around that topic, using the word eloquence. My first question today is, some of us carefully prepare, and by the way, I'm not judging in this question, but some of us, that's okay. Some of us are very meticulous. We carefully prepare, spend a lot of time, and some of us just get up there and they wing it. My question to you is, what is your speech preparation strategy? Anita.
Thank you for that question, Paul. My strategy is to one day be as eloquent and prepared as Lucille without practicing. I couldn't believe last week when she mentioned that she doesn't practice her speeches ahead of time so that they're more genuine and whatever else she said. But when I prepare a speech, which I'm going to be giving a speech next week, I've already started on it. I've already started researching. I'll try to write it this weekend, and I'll try practicing it over and over and over again, and try to get out the ahs and all of the other things that I'm trying to accomplish with that speech. But for me, it's still taking a lot of preparation and practice. But one day, I'm going to be able to give a speech without all of that practice, with just the information. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Anita. Greg is not on these Zoom calls, and I really miss Greg because he spends a lot of time on researching a topic. Not all of his talks, but most of them, when he does his flip chart, spends a lot of time researching his topic. My question to you is, when was the last time you gave a talk that you actually had to research? And then more specifically, what did you learn as a function of doing the research? So what did you learn from researching and delivering that topic? Megan, did you just raise your hand? Megan, you're up. Go ahead. What did you learn from researching your topic? take yourself off mute. There you go.
I love this question because my favorite speech that I did, it was a long time ago. My favorite one was my research speech. And I did it on the color of the wedding dress in all of the different cultures. And it was very informative and stuff that I didn't know. And not everyone has a white wedding dress. And that was new to me. And, you know, of course, in America, it's not always white, but it was informative in that I really learned through all of my research that I did, all of the customs of the different cultures, and that was very intuitive, and I just loved the eloquence of all of the dresses. They were perfect.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for using the word of the day, eloquence, fluent or persuasive speaking or writing. Next question for you is, there's all kinds of ways to prepare in terms of documenting your speech. Some of us like to use note cards. Some of us, myself, I prefer like an 8.5, 11 with big font so I can see it. I just do a couple quick bullet points. Some of us actually write the whole thing out. Some of us memorize the whole thing. It's pretty amazing. I know there's some speakers that I can see on the screen that actually memorize the entire speech. My question for you is, what is your speech preparation strategy in terms of bullet points, writing it out, what have you, and delivering it? Corey Murphy, why don't you give us how you do it?
Thanks, Paul. Good to see everybody. Haven't been on the meetings for a while, so great to see everybody. What I do is I always think about stories. I love stories. I love to get engaged with stories with someone who's talking about the elegance of the feelings and the description. I love to get involved, and I love to imagine what they're talking about in my mind. And because I like it, that's the way I like to say my speeches, and the way that I memorize a speech, or the way that I outline a speech, is I memorize the stories, or I remember the points of the stories. So I'll usually open up with, what is the speech about? What's the problem? Possibly what's the solution? And then I'll get into a story and then recap with a conclusion. That seems to be best, but I love stories. And I think the more stories that you can use, the better. And the more personal stories, I think, are the best, because there's a lot more emotion, a lot more feelings that come out with those personal stories. So those are the few tips.
Thank you, Corey. Love the idea of starting with a story or integrating a story into your talk, and that may help you actually remember some of the things you need to talk about. This question is going to go for some of our more seasoned speakers. Question for you is, you're a seasoned speaker, so what would you tell a new speaker in terms of preparation, what not to do? Angel, what would you tell a new speaker what not to do in terms of prep?
Thank you for that question, Paul. As a teacher, I think the most important thing before dispensing advice or teaching anything is to find out what they already know, and not be telling them stuff that they do already know, or advising them unnecessarily. So I would need to make that very personal. I would need to listen and check out what they're already doing, or watch their process and see how they're feeling about that process before I could decide if it maybe ought to be tweaked or changed. And I think for some people, writing the whole thing out can really help focus their thoughts and make them realize that maybe the content needs to be reversed. The beginning should be at the end as a conclusion, and you can sometimes take the whole thing apart, but that can also become too messy or too overwhelming for some people. When I used to give speeches that were like an hour long, I would really have to prepare them. But for Toastmasters, they've always been pretty short. I haven't felt the need, although my first couple, I did do that. I wrote everything down. So if that makes someone comfortable, helps to frame their thoughts so they can then deliver it or even memorize it, I would admire that, because for me, trying to memorize anything really blocks the flow, stops me being in the moment, stops me reacting, responding to the people in the room. And I will try to recall and therefore not really give what I wanted to give. But it's very helpful to do bullet points. And you mentioned bullet points. I'm just wondering where the timer is because I can't see anyone.
You're at yellow.
Oh, at yellow. Okay. So at the end of the day, I think if you can go through bullet points that make sense to you and maybe try it out on a friend, what not to do is not to worry, not to stress, not to keep going over and over, and not to belabor points you've already made. Trust that your audience was listening and maybe tell them at the beginning what you're going to cover and remind them at the end, but don't belabor or repeat any points, and make sure that you also are telling your audience things that they want to know or don't know yet, and don't tell them what they've already learned, because time is precious and we want to use it to best effect. Thank you. I hope that was eloquent.
Thank you, Angel. One of the things in terms of preparation that I like to do, especially if I'm speaking in a venue that I'm unfamiliar with, is I like to get there early. Even if it's 10 minutes early, 15 minutes early, whenever I can get in the door, because one of the scariest things to do for me is to get up and speak in an environment that I'm not familiar with. So what sometimes I'll do is I'll actually go up even before speakers or anybody gets in the room, and I'll go stand up there in the front of the room with nobody in there, just so I get a feel for the room. That's one of the ways that I prepare. My question for you is, when you give talks, how do you prepare in terms of understanding your surroundings? Charles Bradshaw.
How I prepare for my surroundings. For me, that's really about who I'm speaking. For those of you who don't know, I work in the civil military relations field, which means that I deal with a lot of leaders who are in the community as well as in the military. It's not unheard of that I'll be speaking before an installation commander and or a mayor or state legislators. Thus, eloquence is very important. For me, it's going through and understanding my audience, who is in the room, what do they do, and what motivates them. Those are by far the most important ways that I prepare, because you don't want any surprises or questions, and the more that I can do to help prepare for their questions, for their interests, the better off everyone will be with my speech.
Thank you, Charles. I live in Vista, and when we have our meetings in Carlsbad, it's about a 15-minute drive. So one of the things that I do in terms of preparation is I will often give a speech in the car to myself on the way to Toastmasters. Now, it's a little weird when I pull up to a stoplight and I'm talking and doing this and that. People look over and they're like, wow, what a weirdo. People probably think that anyway, but it's even more weird when I'm talking to myself. But that's one of the ways that I prepare on the way over to Toastmasters. My question for you is, when you practice, if you practice for your speeches, where and how do you practice? Devin.
This feels like true confessions. So I do practice. I do not write the whole thing out though. So that kind of goes back to the planning. So I always make sure my first line or two and my last line or two are scripted, and the rest is a bulleted outline. So actually doing the practice kind of helps me get the cadence down so that by the time I give it, it comes out, eloquent and flows well. And it's going to sound weird, but I actually, the shower seems to get my, get it going pretty well. And so that's one place, but I too also practice up to the minute I arrive at Toastmasters in the car. So every time I give a speech, that's the very last thing I do, is I just do one more run through in my head just to make sure I have kind of the main points I want. And I also find every time I time it at home, it's longer than it is when I give it. So if I practice several times and then I kind of know the areas that I tend to speed up when I get nervous, because that still happens to me every time.
Thank you, Devin. In terms of preparation, when I'm in the car and I'm presenting to myself on the way over, I don't necessarily practice my hand gestures or my body language because I'm sitting in the car. But I wanted to know, do you practice some of your body language? So not only just what you're saying and how you deliver it, but also your body language. It's maybe a little bit complicated, but do you practice your hand gestures when you're giving a presentation? Or do you really just focus on the content and then it comes naturally? Stacy, how about you?
Hi, Paul. Thank you so much. I love that question because I do practice. Now that we're on Zoom and I have a Zoom account, I tend to use Zoom as a great feedback for myself to practice in front of a live camera. And I actually record it sometimes and play it back so I can see some of the flaws and some of the things I really need to improve on. So that's the way I practice. And in the past, I just would practice but not be able to see it. So I think that having the Zoom is really a plus. And I can actually see my own facial expressions, and I can actually be more eloquent with how I prepare my speech and actually get a feel for what the viewers see, as well as just practicing like in front of the dog. So that's my take, and I can't see the timer. I guess I have it on speaker. So thank you.
You agree. All right, thank you. One of the things when it comes to preparation is, at least I find for myself, and I won't speak for the next speaker, but I find that the more I practice or the more prepared I am, then my anxiety goes way down. And when I'm not prepared, holy cow, I'm like very, very nervous. And I'm like, I'm going to screw this up. But some people might just be able to let all those butterflies go. My question for you is, how do you manage your anxiety and your butterflies when it comes to speaking? Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I do get a lot of anxiety and butterflies before I speak. And in order to be as eloquent as possible, I do as much preparation as I can. In the beginning, with my first few speeches, I prepared, probably almost over-prepared, and included too much information and too much detail. And then I tried to smash it all in there and get it in. But that was sort of for me to combat my own shortcomings of my fear and my anxiety of speaking. And then the last couple of speeches I've given, well, one of them was using gestures. And I found that that is a prop that is amazing. And I love using that, and it helps ground me. And the more I can use gestures, the better and I feel, and the more relaxed I feel like I am. And in addition to that, I've had a goal to use bullet points and wean myself off of memorizing so that I can speak from bullet points. That's how far I've gotten so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Very good. So when it comes to preparation for these Zoom meetings, Stacy gave us kind of some examples of how she does it. I really love that idea of putting Zoom on and taping yourself, if you will, if it's not the right word, recording yourself, seeing how you do. And so that's a way to prepare. Last week, I was the Toastmaster, and I've been Toastmaster probably, 50 times in my life, maybe more, but that's always in person. And when I actually did it on Zoom, I found that I was like a little bit discombobulated last week here and there. I'm like, oh man, it's different doing it on video. So I wasn't really prepared in that sense for the video aspect of being the Toastmaster. My question to you is, how do you prepare for video presentations, Lucille?
Thanks for that question, Paul. I do not I do not consider myself eloquent at all. I still need a lot of practice, even though I talked earlier that I do not practice my speech. But I do in the very beginning when I started out with Toastmaster. But to answer Paul's question, how do I prepare myself in a Zoom meeting? I basically just make sure that I have the agenda in my head or in front of me, and I just follow that through. And what helped me the most with the Zoom meeting and talking online is when I was a district director and I was a PQD. So the district leadership allowed me to speak in front of the audience, the members that most of them I do not know, and be just comfortable with it. So that was a lot of practice when it comes to impromptu speaking, although that was not like a long 5 minutes or half hour type of speech, but at least I'm in front of them a lot of time. So with that, that was helpful for me. But as far as Zoom meeting, also with the district allowed me to have practice for that purpose. And basically I just assume, I picture all of you in front of me and I'm talking to you. That's basically what I do, even though I know that you're on the other side. And I have two screens. So one is on this side and one is when I talk to you in one-on-one. And I sometimes would glance on the side just to see everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, that's great. Thank you, Lucille. A lot of times when we're in a room of 20 people or so and we give a presentation, get a little bit comfortable. My question to you is, how would you prepare differently in a room of 20 people as a room of 200? So you have to give a keynote, and we're used to giving our little Toastmasters talk in front of 20, but now you have to have an audience of 200. Pat, what would you do to prepare differently for an audience of 200 people? You're on mute.
It's a good question, Paul. Thank you for the question. I'm not sure if I would prepare any differently, because for me, it's almost the same level of anxiety / confidence, because I've done some community theater where it was 200 people, I'd say, and I would just have to know my part. And so I believe it would definitely take more practice. Maybe I take it a little lightly here. I'm not as eloquent when there's less people, but I'd still take the same preparation. I probably would definitely practice a lot more. Some of the things I used to do for remembering parts, I would go for a walk and speak my lines, or for some of these speeches, speak my speech, and just get used to being in that role out in life, and then in my house, out in my car, so I'm more comfortable anywhere I am. And that helps to just become more accustomed to saying the lines or saying the speech, whereas I would I'll be able to just ad lib if I forgot the lines, because I've done that and it's scary, but that's how I do it. Thanks.
Thank you, Pat. Deanna, you know the last one's coming to you, right? You knew it. Sometimes I find that when I speak, the audience is not as engaged, whether it's 15 minutes into the talk, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever the talk is. Sometimes you lose engagement. My question to you is, how do you prepare for that inevitable loss of engagement, whether it's one person, the whole audience? Do you prepare for that at all? What would you do?
Thanks, Paul. That's a good question. I I think asking questions to the audience is one way to wake them up, get them engaged, and also variability in the tone of voice, maybe emphasizing certain things. I find that if I have a specific point and the expressions and just my loud voice sometimes can wake somebody up. It may not be very eloquent, but I can have a big booming voice sometimes. And if I'm walking around, if I'm standing in front of an audience, and if I do notice people are getting a little, maybe they're not paying as much attention, but walking closer to them can help to wake them up. Just little things like that would be techniques I would try to get the audience awake.
Thank you. Well, thanks to everybody. I learned a lot just by listening to you and some of the ways you do it. And I actually grabbed a couple tips. So that's been really fantastic. I'm going to turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Pat.
Thank you, Paul. That was very eloquent table topics. I would now, oh, I did forget to call the joke master. If Stacy, if you would have time for doing your joke, please welcome Stacy.
Thank you, Pat. I am prepared today. Okay, so an atheist was on a flight with a child sitting next to him, and he asked her if she would like to talk. So he said that flights go quicker if you have a conversation with your fellow passenger. And the little girl, just starting to read a book, says, "What would you like to talk about?" So the gentleman says, "I'm an atheist, and I want to know why there's no God or heaven or hell or life after death." To which she replied, "Okay." She said, "Those would be interesting topics, but let me ask you a question. Okay, a horse, a cow, and a deer all eat the same stuff, grass. Yet the horse poops out little clumps, the deer excretes little pellets, and the cow turns a flat patty. So why do you suppose that is?" So the gentleman, the atheist, says he was surprised by this little girl's intelligence, and he said, he thinks about it, he says, "I have no idea." To which the little girl replies, "Do you really feel qualified to discuss God, heaven and hell, or life after death when you don't know shit?" Thank you.
Oh, that was great. Thanks, Stacy.
Fun.
Right. Timer report for the table topics. Did everyone qualify for that? Devin?
So everyone except for Angel went over.
Okay, thank you. And then a grammarian report on the word of the day. Did everyone for the table topics?
Everyone used the word of the day except for Corey.
Okay.
I think I used it.
No, you said elegant.
Oh.
Sorry, babe.
Okay, so you can make your
But you also, I have the good stuff coming in my grammarian report, and he made the best use of English too.
Okay. We can take the time to make our selection for our table topics.
What's the ballot counter?
The Stacy. Stacy is the ballot counter. You can send your picks for the table topics to Stacy.
Okay.
And vote for your table topics. I think everyone except Corey and Angel are qualified. All right, and then could I get a counter report from Anita, please?
Sorry, I was in chat. For the counter report, I just want to say that you're making my life too hard because I can't find any ahs, likes, or anything else. Just very, very few. Pat, you did an excellent job. Just a couple of tongue clicks, like that, and a couple of ahs, but the ahs are tied in right with the words, so you almost don't even hear them. Like, ah, it's okay, like that. But there were very, very, very few. Charles had just maybe 4 ahs. That was all in your whole presentation. Perfect. Megan had a and a you know. And Devin had a so and a like and a you know. Stacy had a couple of ums. And that was it. Great job.
Wow.
Thank you.
Toastmasters really works. May I have a grammarian report?
You may, starting with Charles. He gave us so many great new terms, and he also said that he'd come to treasure statistics, which is wonderful. Deanna used words like booming, empathy, and proximity she talked about. Lucille talked about presentational style and how she pictures us all. Jessie mentioned her shortcomings and how she's weaning herself. Stacy, I missed. I was so busy admiring the visuals of you, Stacy, and your smile. I just forgot to listen. I didn't hear anything special. Devin, she talked about a run through. Megan repurposed the word elegance to refer to wedding dresses, and I thought that was really very creative and applicable. Paul talks in the car. He used discombobulated. Pat used accustomed, and Corey gets the prize when he talked about the elegance of feelings, that was the best use of English of the day.
Thank you, Angel. We'll now call our general evaluator, Deanna.
All right. Great, great, great meeting today. Pat, you did an awesome job as far as giving everybody all in order and filling up those empty spots at the last minute. Also, I did miss one thing, is a speaker number 2. Would have been nice to have a second speaker. And Lucille, you did a very good job as being an evaluator, very succinct in evaluating Charles. Paul, I love the questions. I know sometimes we try to tie in the theme with the theme from the Toastmaster with the theme on the table topic side, but this was a fantastic session with all the questions that you had. I learned a lot myself too, and I think this is very apropos for our audience. And I think you came very prepared with a lot of questions because everybody got a chance to talk. Yes. And with that, that is my conclusion.
Thanks, Deanna. And we can call for a ballot counter. Did you want to announce the winner of the table topics, Angel? Please.
Oh,
It's me.
I don't know who it is.
It's me. Pat.
I
it's
mean,
me.
Stacy, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I counted how many people voted, and there were 2 votes that are still out, and so there's a tie. And if somebody wants to vote, we could break the tie. I think Megan did not vote, and I don't know who the other one was. I can't remember who the other one is.
I haven't voted.
Maybe it's Pat, but we have a tie, and I just wondered if we could break that tie.
I like that, Stacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into statistics too, Charles. I love statistics. I think it's a very interesting thing.
Nice callback.
So I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for Megan to vote.
Who are you voting for, Megan?
Oh, here they came. Okay. Let's see. It looks like Devin. Devin's the winner. Woo!
Who was the runner-up? You?
No, the runner-up was Deanna.
Oh, I thought it was going to be you, Deanna, and Lucille. Okay.
Thank you.
Everyone was very good.
All right, thanks everyone. I will now turn it back over to our president, Deanna. Thank
All
you.
right. Another great meeting down in the books. I had this whole thing that I wanted to talk about at the beginning. I completely forgot about it. So since we have a few minutes, I want to at least dive into one thing that I wanted to talk about. And that is the SMART goals that you have for yourself. Jesse had a really good talk previously about SMART goals, and Toastmasters, their financial year, or their year starts from July 1st to the end of June of 2021. And I wanted to talk about the SMART goals as far as being specific, what it stands for, M being measurable, A achievable, relevant, and time bound. And just very quickly, I'm not going to go into all this detail, but what kind of personal goals do you have for yourself in Toastmasters this year? And I would encourage you to think about what you personally want to accomplish. And it could be just the next 6 months or from now until the end of the year. What do you want to do? Do you want to accomplish a level? Did you know that Toastmasters actually has a award called the Triple Crown? Does anybody know what a Triple Crown is? Has anybody heard of it? Okay. Triple Crown means you've achieved 3 levels. Three, whether it's level 1, 2, or 3, or whether it's the old award system, but 3 of them within a year, within that fiscal year of Toastmasters. It could be as simple as being a mentor. It could be simple as, I want to win the best table topics. It could be just something like that. Or maybe you want to win it several times in the next few months. But challenge yourself. If you can be more specific what you want to accomplish, that'd be more kudos to you. Some people want to be able to put Toastmasters accomplishments on their LinkedIn profile, on your resume. Maybe you want to hold an officer position next opportunity we have. Any of this. Maybe it might be as simple as, hey, I want to attend the international conference that Toastmasters is having this year, which is going to be the end of this month. So any kind of a goal that you want to set for yourself, I think it's going to be very powerful and very personal to you. And it's just another reason why you're part of this organization. And I'm excited to hear what type of things that you want to accomplish. If you want to share that with me, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to help you to try to achieve your personal goals. And that's pretty much what I wanted to mention today. The other thing is the officers, if you can stay for our little meeting. And did anybody have any announcements before we end today? Okay. With that, it's good seeing you guys. Have a great weekend. Stay safe and appreciate you guys.
Thank you.